My name's Nicole Edwards. I've been with 1DC for about 4 years now. It's afforded me the ability to take part in meaningful action in our communities and our neighborhoods, including Occupy DC, which is my second date with my boyfriend. Meaningful action. Being able to MC the mayoral forum for DC, where we were allowed, no matter what our ages were, to voice our opinions of what we needed in our communities. And today, I'm ecstatic. I'm holding in. To welcome our guests, with no further ado, Miss Angela Davis and Miss... Yes, please. And Miss Barbara Ransby. Yes. Miss Barbara Ransby is a freedom fighter and educator. Ransby has authored 2 books, 2 biographies on Ella Jo Baker and Ms. Paul Robeson. She has been a radical organizer since her days in college. Since then, she has been a radical activist scholar. That's theory and practice. That's very important to remember. That's theory and practice. Just make sure. Serving as one of the founders of African American Women in Defense of Ourselves and the Black Radical Congress. Like Ella Jo Baker, Ransby serves as a fundie, a mentor for student activists involved in various social movements, including Black Lives Matter. Angela Davis, when your name is your title, is a freedom fighter and educator. Davis is the author of 10 books. In recent years, she's taught and protested the range of social problems associated with incarceration and the generalized criminalization of communities affected by poverty and racial discrimination. She draws from her own experiences in the early 70s when she was unjustly imprisoned for 18 months after she was placed on the FBI's 10 Most Wanted list. She's been a part of and founded numerous liberation and prison abolitionist organizations, including Critical Resistance. Without further delay, I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Ransby and Ms. Davis.
So we want to start off with these
Barbara, first, yes. Let me say that it is really wonderful to be here at this event with this audience sponsored by this amazing organization. And I am so happy to participate in the celebration of the 10th anniversary of 1DC. And I should also tell you that I have known Barbara since she was a graduate student.
Long ago.
Yes, and I suppose at that time I was considered a sort of mentor, but I have learned so much from Barbara over the years. I guess we can say now over the decades. When she asked me if I would do this event, I said yes, because I trust Barbara and her judgment and her activism and her scholarly work. She is absolutely amazing. Thank you.
Well. That was kind and generous and makes me blush. So 1DC folks gave us some pretty serious questions to wrestle with up here. And when I looked at those questions, I thought, these are questions of organizers. These are questions that are robust and complex, and we'll do our best. I'm glad I'm asking the questions and Angela's answering the questions, because she will deliver more brilliance than I could muster. But the way they began was with a quote from Harriet Tubman. And I know Harriet Tubman is one of the sheroes of 1DC, one of the historical figures from whom 1DC draws inspiration. And it's a very famous quote, many of you have probably heard it. It's, I freed 1,000 slaves. I would have freed 1,000 more if what? If they had known that they were slaves. And Angela and I were talking about that quote just a little while ago. And I just want to invite you to say a little bit about this idea of empire over the mind, of the ways in which we need to do critical thinking and decolonize our thinking in order to set the stage for a truly liberatory movement.
Yeah. We often forget that much of the oppression, repression we see in the world also operates through us. We forget that, well, I often talk about it as the state being able to invade our most intimate emotions. And oftentimes we think that these are our ideas when they aren't really our ideas. And I'm thinking now of the horrible attack in Orlando, and the fact that so many people are now being compelled to come to grips with the extent to which they too have been influenced and controlled by racism and homophobia. And so, as Harriet Tubman said, yes, if only they had known they were slaves, I could have freed 1,000 more. So what does it mean to begin to decolonize the mind? And I like the term that Ngugi wa Thiong'o, the amazing Kenyan writer, uses, decolonize the mind. When we began to formulate within the context of critical resistance and other abolitionist organizations what it might mean to develop what we called an abolitionist approach, we made the point that it's not only about abolishing the prison industrial complex and recognizing all of the structural connections with, of course, the lack of affordable housing. You know, where do the resources go instead of to the services that people actually need to have livable lives. I think about the fact that we recognize that if we wanted to abolish a kind of retributive justice, justice as vengeance, if we wanted to imagine a new justice system, we had to ask ourselves, how are we replicating and reproducing those impulses that lead to vengeance and retribution? So we had to realize that, oftentimes, even in the simplest interpersonal relationship, someone says something that is hurtful to us, and what do? We want to say something that is hurtful to them. The first impulse is to get back and to hurt. So how are we therefore then also reproducing and replicating what we think we're fighting against? So this whole question of decolonizing the mind and ending mental slavery is so central. Let me say, I think this is a really important historical moment. And oftentimes we don't recognize the historical moments until later when we look back. But this is a time, I think, when we get to recognize that we are living what is going to be hopefully a major turning point in the history of this country. And I love the Black Lives Matter activists. Both the organization, the network, but also the larger movement.
They love you.
Well, I've said many times, it's a great time to be young, but also it's a great time to be old, because the young people, get now to take the reins of history. And those of us who have been involved in these struggles for many decades, we can say, well, this demonstrates that the work that we have done really matters. And so, this is so exciting, and it's amazing that within such a short period of time, so much has changed. Public discourse has changed since in 2 years. As a matter of fact, this is 2016, right? Yeah. Since 2014. Yeah. Well, I'm thinking about Ferguson, but I'm also thinking about Trayvon Martin and the emergence of Dream Defenders, of which I am a proud member of the board. And I learned so much hanging out with the 20 and 30-somethings. Yeah, this is really an exciting moment, and although it's a period during which we have become hyper aware, as we should become, of the violence, the police violence, the violence that always underpins racism and homophobia. And we get to see how the whole war against terror strategy has completely failed. It has completely failed. And I think that one of the things we're recognizing now is that if we are going to take up racism and challenge racism effectively, we have to recognize the extent to which Islamophobia is a central element of contemporary racism. Absolutely. So, this is what I mean. We learn more. We're learning more about what we have to do to be free as we move along in the struggle.
Absolutely. I'm going to wear my historian's hat for a half a second. It's my day job. Because I'm thinking, as Angela described how quickly Black Lives Matter as a movement involving many different organizations, including Black Lives Matter Network and so forth, has taken off and has taken hold and has planted seeds, right, and had an impact. What I'm thinking is the work of critical resistance. I'm thinking of the work that went on in the 90s and early 2000s. I think critical resistance was 2000. Was it 2000?
1998.
1998.
But we started doing the organizing in 1996.
Yes, okay. Because the language is, the analysis is there. The rebellions have happened, and then people have created new organizational formations, Umi Salah and others in Dream Defenders and Charlene Carruthers and others in Black Youth Project 100 and, of course, Opal Tometi and Alicia Garza and Patrisse Cullors. But they, where did they look for an analysis to make sense of this? Where did they look for the antecedents to what is happening now? So nothing ever comes out of thin air, right? There's always a prologue to the movement. And so even when we see a highly visible movement in the forefront of national attention, we have to say, what was the work that went on to even introduce the notion of a prison industrial complex, right? That was the work of critical resistance, which Angela and others were so instrumental in. Okay, so
this also allows us to reflect on, as you say, what are the histories that reside inside these moments that oftentimes appear to just come out of nowhere, and that makes us recognize the work of organizers. One DC is an organization that attempts, not only to make sure affordable housing is available, but to create a movement in which there is a recognition of the connections between, capitalism and racism and homophobia and sexism. And so I just want to take a moment to pay tribute to all of the organizers, many of whose names we do not know, who have done the work that makes it possible to create an arena, a terrain on which these movements arise. Because they never come out of nowhere. I mean, we talk about the civil rights movement, the freedom movement, but hardly anyone talks about the work that was done during the 30s, and the work that that Black communists did in the South, organizing workers, and so yeah. And I see there's a 1 minute sign, so I guess we have
She's
to
also a
move on.
historian. But I think that the next question they wanted us to wrestle with is, of course, very consistent with that, which is to understand the importance of class struggle in all of this. And what I'm reminded of, and we haven't actually spoken about this, our very beloved brother, Cedric Robinson, the author of Black Marxism, a truly inspirational political and intellectual light, passed away a couple of weeks ago. And Angela and I were together in New York at a conference confronting racial capitalism that was in part a tribute to him about a little over a year ago. And so he really insisted that we understand class struggle in the context of understanding capitalism as racial capitalism. I want to also, on this question of how do we keep hope alive in the face of so many defeats, I feel a real sense of promise in this moment, but because I worry about every little thing, and that's my, my function in life, right, I do worry about backlash, and I worry about some of the challenges, and we were talking before about the way in which the state has responded to the movement, and I think it's the strength and the potential of the movement that's caused this response. But one response in particular very recently was the prosecution of Jasmine Richards Abdullah in California, in which she was convicted of the outrageous charge of felony lynching, which, Angela can say something about it. Angela, did you meet with her, or you?
Yeah. I actually saw Jasmine at Cal State LA just shortly before, maybe a week before the sentencing. Felony lynching. And you know what that means, that anyone who attempts to prevent a person from being arrested can be charged with felony lynching. I know this is going a little bit off script, but I'd like to share with you the fact that she knew that she was possibly facing time in jail, and so she asked me, how to deal with that and what it was like for me. And I had a long conversation with her, but I also told her that that although this is not going to help her now, she might be interested to know that at this point in my life, I am really grateful to have had the experience of being in jail. It's because I don't know whether my trajectory would have been the same if I had not had that experience. And I had a chance to meet and become friends with and make community with so many other women who were behind bars. And those memories really sustained me. I'm not saying that it wasn't difficult, that it wasn't scary, that I wasn't afraid, all of that. But that one day she'll look back and see how important it was to have been given the gift of spending time with the people that she will no doubt meet in jail. But she's a powerful young woman, a really, really powerful woman. And we still have to say, free Jasmine Abdullah.
Yeah. I think that going back to the self-care and the love each other and protect each other means that we can't forget Jasmine Abdullah. We can't, and basically this charge was she was trying to keep someone from being arrested at a peaceful demonstration. So we can't forget her. We have to, make her know that she's still a part of a larger movement. So
oh yeah, and I told her, I said, I practice yoga. But I told her, I said, I started practicing yoga when I was in jail. And I, it's been a lifetime practice. And so that's something that connects me with, there are ways in which you can turn a very difficult experience into a victory. I like the Cubans used to say, turn a defeat into a victory, right? And I think we have to continue to do that.
Yes, yes. And we have to continue to our next question. The next question we've already touched on inescapably, which is how can an organization like One DC have a global reach or practice global solidarities in the work that it does? And again, the longer version of the question really recounted what people experience in organizing and trying to, Angela and I have done work around Palestine solidarity. Much of my early organizing was around South Africa, Free South Africa solidarity work, and so forth. And sometimes what people say in communities is, man, we are suffering so much right here. There is so much right outside the door. How can we possibly be worried? How can we possibly have, additional energy for solidarity work? And sometimes, you have to, the argument is an important one. It's important to recognize that suffering, but it's also important to do this solidarity work and to understand the history of it. Once you said, you know what I did when I was thinking about this interview? It may not seem like I prepared. I watched a lot of interviews with Angela and talks that she's given. And there was one where you pointed out how much the Black freedom struggle in this country has benefited from global solidarity, going back to abolition. Yeah. So I thought that's a damn good point. Yes. But how would you encourage people to respond to that?
I think I was also saying that that having been the beneficiaries of so much global solidarity from, Frederick Douglass, who went to England, and Ida B. Wells, who found support for the anti-lynching movement abroad, and so forth and so on, that we have to learn how to give solidarity, offer solidarity as well. We have to recognize that we can be nurtured by the offering of solidarity. And I was thinking about One DC and the really important work that's done against gentrification here in the city, which is kind of like ground zero for the country, right? I live in Oakland, and people are saying, oh yeah, Oakland is the new Brooklyn. But what does that mean? It means that gentrification is taking over, right?
Right.
And it means that poor people are being expelled, are being deterritorialized. And I use the term deterritorialization because this is happening all over the world. Well, it was important for me to offer my support to an organization that has a long history of struggling for affordable housing, an organization that emphasizes the leadership of Black women, and of course, historically, our struggles for freedom have involved the leadership of Black women such as Ella Baker and Fannie Lou Hamer and many others. Unfortunately, they aren't always given the credit they deserve. The campaign against gentrification, especially in the nation's capital, is absolutely essential. The commodification of housing represents the worst of what capitalism has inflicted on communities, poor communities, communities of color. And if we are to continue that trajectory of struggling for freedom, certainly the campaign for affordable housing, cooperatives, housing that represents the desire to move forward in the struggle for education and for health care and for all of the things we as human beings need to be able to imagine a livable future.